Welcome back. Over the weekend, the government, in a huge announcement, brought out the unified pension scheme with new features. Those who joined the government from 2004 are covered by the national pension system will have the option to shift to the unified pension scheme, which will be implemented from April next year. UPS includes provisions for a fixed pension amount, ensuring retirees receive a guaranteed and predetermined sum regularly after retirement. Under the UPS, if you work for 25 years or more, you will receive 50% of your average pay for the preceding 12 months as pension, adjusted for inflation through dearness allowance. Employee contributions will remain the same, but the government will increase its contribution from 14 to 18.5%. The India bloc is now raising questions. Aam Aadmi Party has said that the UPS is worse than the national pension scheme. It called it a big fraud on the employees of the country. Paramilitary forces of the country have been excluded, they say. Congress has called this a U-turn. They also said this was an attack on Dalits, tribals and backward classes. But the government has maintained that this is no U-turn, but the scheme is merely an improvement.
There is no change or U-turn from the NPS. You could call it an improvement in the NPS scheme.
इस पेंशन स्कीम से आपने देश के अर्धसैनिक बलों को निकालकर बाहर कर दिया।
पुरानी पेंशन का जो स्कीम था वही लागू करना चाहिए, ये कांग्रेस की मांग है।
और उस फैसले के बाद आप देखेंगे कि न्यू पेंशन स्कीम ये भी लागू रहेगी और यूपीएस भी लागू रहेगी। जिसको यूपीएस में ज्यादा फायदा दिखता है वो यूपीएस को अपना।
Let's open this up. Pradeep Bhandari, national spokesperson of the BJP, with us. Professor Anwar Pasha, spokesperson of the RJD. But I want to begin by asking Ajay Dua, former Union Secretary of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Dua, the government says that this is a more fiscally prudent scheme as compared to what we've had in the past. But the fact is that this is going to add a burden of at least 6,000 crore rupees on the exchequer. How does that get explained?
It's fiscally prudent for the simple reason that it continues to be a scheme where there is going to be contribution from the employees. Unlike the old pension scheme, where there was no contribution from the employees and the entire money or the pension, and it has run into a huge figure, currently 2.43 lakh crores, which is a huge figure only for the center and the states. If you combine, it comes to about 5.2 lakh crores. Now it is 10% of the contribution from the employees is to continue. So it's fiscally prudent to that extent that the government might have given defined benefits, which means 50% of the last 12 months average pay, indexation benefit, family pension of 60% assured, so all those 5 benefits as well as a lump sum amount. All those benefits are there, but the government has not done away with the contribution of the employees, and at 10% itself it can be a huge amount. So all that the government has done by UPS is, yes, they have conceded the demand that the government employees do not want to live under uncertainty after retirement, so they should know what they'll get, but they will be continuing to give their contribution for it at the 10% of their salary plus the DA, which is how it becomes fiscally prudent.
Professor Anwar Pasha, then what is the problem of the opposition?
A very happy Janmashtami to all the panelists and the viewers of your channel. As the employees unions all over the country, they are protesting against it. They have rejected this scheme that is called this UPS. Not this UPS, unified scheme, unified pension scheme. Because we consider, our party and even India, then they consider it a cheating with the employees of the government, be it a state government or be it central government. This is a cheating. And this has started in 2004 when the Vajpayee government, the BJP-led government, took away that scheme that is called Old Pension Scheme, OPS. They deprived the employees of the government from that scheme, the benefits they were getting from that old pension scheme. And they brought NPS, New Pension Scheme. And that was not acceptable to the employees. They have been consistently fighting against it. They have been demanding the restoration of OPS, Old Pension Scheme. But the government has not considered their demand. They have brought a new scheme that is called UPS. This is nothing. This is also cheating with the employees. This is a old wine in a new bottle. There is no difference. Rather, the employees are saying that this is more dangerous than the NPS. 10% amount of their salary every month will be deducted. Is this going to benefit the employees? 10% will be deducted for the whole service. And what they will get in the end? They are getting their own money which they have deposited to the government. They'll be getting from it. In the old pension, there was no cut from the salary of the employees. The pension is a right of the employees, and this is not something that is government is doing some favor to the employees. This is the right of the employees, and this right has been accepted all over the world. All the countries, they give pension to their employees in a better form. Our government took away OPS and they imposed NPS, and now they are imposing UPS. Why not all? If this pension is better, if this pension is very ideal, if this pension is very good, why not they restore the old pension scheme? This is the main demand of the employees. Let them restore the old pension scheme. If employees are not accepting it, if they do not see this scheme good for them, our defense staff, they are excluded. They will not get any scheme. They will not get any pension because their service ends within 20 years. This government has given a 25 years span. If your service is 25 years and more than that, then you'll be entitled for this pension. It means this is attack on the rights of the employees, including the defense service, the people of the defense service, our Jawan.
Sure.
They guard our country. They sacrifice their life. They live in a very miserable condition. They will be deprived of this scheme.
Sure, so it excludes a lot of key people is what the opposition believes. But when you say that why not go back to OPS, there were several opposition ruled states, many of whom are your allies, who promised to implement OPS but haven't been able to execute it for whatever reasons. But I want to get in Pradeep Bhandari in as well. Sure, but I want to get in Pradeep Bhandari as well. Pradeep, the allegation against the BJP is that you saw what happened in Himachal, the promise of going back to OPS won the Congress the state is what many believe, which is why this is course correction by the BJP now that there are elections coming up in just a few weeks.
Good evening, Poonam, and welcome to the viewer and good evening to the viewers of CNN News 18. Let me begin this argument, Poonam, by not giving an individual opinion, but I have the tweet of Praveen Chakravarti, who heads the data analytics wing of the Congress party. And let me quote Praveen Chakravarti as I begin the argument. Praveen Chakravarti says that now UPS does that. UPS is equal to NPS plus minimum guarantee. This is prudent and welcome. So the head of the data analytics wing of the Congress party, this is his Twitter profile, this is his Twitter exact tweet, welcomes UPS and admits that UPS is not a rollback, but it is an extension of the NPS scheme. So clearly there is division in the Congress party, with the head of data analytics wing, who is well versed with data, welcoming the scheme. Now there was the argument of protest. Let me show you another picture because it's a visual medium. This is what is happening in Karnataka, where the Karnataka state employees are protesting against the Karnataka government for its failure to implement the pension scheme. And this is just not limited to Karnataka. You see that happening in Himachal and you see that happening in other Congress ruled states. So the OPS was a half-baked measure which was fiscally absolutely not prudent because there was no dedicated fund, and as Mr. Dua pointed out that there was no contribution from the employees and the government. This exactly does that. Now there are three primary differences between the UPS and the NPS which addresses the argument of fiscal prudence as well as why it is being taken into account after speaking to n number of people. This scheme has been in talks since 2023. We've spoken to more than 100 state associations, so it is not brought out unilaterally. Point number 2, there is a minimum pension amount in the UPS scheme if a government employee works for 10 years, which was not the case in OPS, which is a minimum pension amount of 10,000 rupees. 3, this also has indexation benefits where if there are inflationary pressures, the inflation is adjusted to it in the pension amount. And 4, that if an individual, there is a diseased person in the family and for scenarios beyond the control, imagine that somebody passes away, the 60% of the last salary is given in the pension amount to the family. So I do believe that from the ground what we are gathering, Poonam, is that the people have welcomed it and the central government employees have welcomed it. The Congress party might have some other feedback mechanisms. Maybe the best part is that the Congress party spokesperson calls Praveen Chakrabarti and first gets the official stand of the Congress party.
So you say this has nothing to do with the elections that are upcoming? This is not election related, it's not a poll issue.
Poonam, this absolutely not, Poonam. Elections happen in this country every few months. Policy making is a continuous process. Policy making is not a static process. If we go forward, and let me show you another important headline. This is the RBI report which I have, and this is the RBI report which is the state finances, a study of budgets of 2022-2023, and this exactly quotes, and let me read it from the RBI report, that the OPS scheme poses a major risk on and could lead to a situation of sub-national fiscal horizon and would result in accumulation of unfunded liabilities in the coming years to come. So this is what the problem of OPS was, and this is why we've ensured that the contribution happens from both the government and the employees, as Mr. Dua, who's worked at a very high position in the government, pointed out. So it's nothing to do with elections. You have elections coming up in Maharashtra, you have coming up in Jharkhand, you have in Delhi, so elections will go on, but policy making will keep on happening. And if you look at the media reports, we have been discussing about it since 2023.
Professor Pasha, do you agree? Are you convinced when the BJP says that this is not election related?
Not
because the middle class doesn't get anything from this government has been the long-standing criticism, budget after budget. That was the criticism after this budget also. This is something that gives the middle class something to celebrate. Do you think this will work for the BJP or not?
The result of these three states, the election results of these three states will show you, will prove that the employees are against it. Employees are not happy with this scheme. They have rejected it. All the major trade unions like ATEC, AITUC or CITU or many other organizations and the unions, they have rejected it. They have said that they will fight for the old pension scheme. They will keep on fighting for the restoration of old pension scheme. Because this is not a unified pension scheme, this is a unjust pension scheme. This is unjust pension scheme that is not acceptable to the employees of the government or state government or central government. And this is sheer lie to say that all the trade unions were consulted, all the stakeholders were consulted. They have refused. That they have not consulted at all. Some people went there with a vested interest. The people who were supporting the government, the unions were supporting like BMS. They were consulted. Their opinion was taken into account. Not the opinion of this ATEC or C2 or many other organizations and the unions, trade unions. They were not consulted. They are angry over it. They say that our opinion was not taken into account. So this
process wasn't consultative enough, and that's really the criticism that comes of this government on multiple occasions. But Ajay Dua, I believe you had a point to make.
All that I want to say at this juncture is that the pension scheme, which was there earlier, certainly the employees were getting a defined benefit which was fairly decent. But how much of burden was it causing onto the exchequer, and was it sustainable, was the main issue. We've been discussing that since 2003 in a previous government of the BJP led by Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. It had come out very clearly that year after year, the pension burden upon the government was increasing, and right now, Poonam, it is as large as 12% of the revenue expenditure of the center and the states combined is just one item, which is pensions. The question is, you can demand the moon. C2, the left wing, AITCU, C2, probably now Congress, yes and no, both. Congress saying they are asking for the moon, but it is not going to be sustainable in a country which has other priorities, and the tax GDP ratio might be improving a little bit, but we have still a long way to go and have a whole lot of other priorities. So I would say the hybrid model, which UPS is a vast improvement upon the NPS. Those who consider that NPS was a good option, they can continue to remain under it. The government is not forcing anyone to move to the UPS. They can remain there, and the government made this obligatory to join under NPS only to the new employees who joined after 1/4/2004. It was
But
not.
sir, sorry to interrupt you there, but I just want to ask you this. Then do you think reforms are taking a backseat? Because that's the whole point of bringing in NPS was. Going back from that to another system, many say that this is pushing back on reforms.
Not quite. In fact, if you say that here we tried out a particular reform for 20 years, say from 2004 to 2024, we did find that economically probably it was okay, but socially it wasn't. There were people who continued, and reforms are not necessarily economic in nature. They have to look at the societal entire point of view. Let's forget politics. It did certain people who had retired earlier, they were getting a meager salary which was less than 4 digits. So the NPS, which is contributory and defined contribution, and the return was saying if properly invested, you could get a higher return, and we have not even given it sufficient trial. The first set of people who joined in 2004, they have yet to retire, Poonam.
Yes.
So they are probably not yet. So if you go by the world experience, even the OECD countries, the industrialized countries of the world, everywhere it is a contributory system.
Right. So this is not a setback to reforms, and we may not want to see this from the political prism. It's not about politics, but unfortunately every decision usually is seen from that prism. Whether this has any bearing on the upcoming elections, we'll find out sooner than later. But I have to leave it at that. I thank you all gentlemen for joining us here on this broadcast of The Right Stand. Time for a quick break here on this edition. On the other side, though, we'll get you details of what's happening in Balochistan, the unprecedented offensive against the Pakistani establishment. The fight for freedom against Pak atrocities is taking an ugly twist. We'll tell you more.